In previous videos, we've looked at developing some code in TIA Portal, some basic code, setting up some on-off sequences for inputs and outputs, and then looking at some latching. So what I'd just like to do is take a closer look at that and try and look at it in real time, what's happening with some of the equipment, just to sort of re-emphasize what's happening in the code and to visualize it a little bit better. Now, very simply, we've just got a basic on-off line of code here. So the start button will turn on the Q1 error light. So we've got a light down here and we've a start push button. Okay, so this is a spring return push button. Now we've downloaded the code in, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into monitoring mode in the PLC so that we can watch this sort of flow of energy, flow of power coming across into the input, or sorry, into the output in real time while we watch the hardware do it as well. All going well, it should sync up. So at the moment you can see power is trying to get across, but it's waiting for someone to press the start button. And then once we do that, if we watch closely, we will see the green will go across and it will turn on the Q1 error light. So just an indicator light. Now if we take our finger off that, we see we lose the power there. Okay, so you can see that it's only on while I'm pressing the start button. Now that's not very good if we need to have our finger on the button the whole time to keep an output on. So what we'd like to do is put in some latching. So when we're going to do some latching, I'm just going to come out of monitoring mode here. Okay, I'll go offline, yes. And what we need to do is, we've seen this line of code here where we use an output, but we put it as the input. So we take that output, label it the exact same way, but we're using the input symbol, and that will keep itself latched on. And then we need something to break the latch. When you make a latch, you need something to break it, and we're going to use the reset push button. So that's our common setup there for a latch that we've seen and we've discussed in other videos. So you start the latch, it'll come over, it'll turn on this this output. Then we use the output as an input to kind of feed itself back in. So this isn't a physical input. This is just a reference within our code that allows us to keep itself running. And then when we push the reset button, it'll break the latch. So I'm just downloading that into the PLC. We'll go back online. So again, you can see power's trying to get across, but it can't go anywhere in these two paths to turn on the output. Now the only physical button that I can interact with is this start button. So you'll see I'll push that. Now the Q1 error light is on. It's now fed itself in, so it's latched on. So watch, if I take my finger off the start button, see the way we've lost power coming from this pathway, but it's keeping itself running. It's keeping itself kind of self-sufficient there internally in the code. It's using that link internally to keep itself running, using the output as an input to itself. So now the only way to break that is to operate this push button. So look at the way the inputs are different. They're still an input, but they're just in a slightly different configuration. So this is allowing power to go through it, and then once I push it, it's going to open a gap. So you'll see now I'll push the reset button, this grey button here. See the way it opens it, it breaks the latch, and then it goes back to green saying that, yeah, I'm allowing power to flow through it. So that's our NOT gate, which we'll talk about in some other videos later on. But just so you can see that, that allows us to briefly push the start button. The Q1 error LED, it's just an indicator LED, will stay on until we push the reset button. And then just note the difference between those input symbols. Both input symbols, but they're just in a different configuration. So this one here doesn't allow flow to go through it, and then you push it, it will close and allows power to flow through. This one here starts closed, so it allows power to go through, and then when you push it, it opens. So these two are the reverse of each other. That allows us to start and stop our latch. And then the key point is we're using an output as an input on itself, so we'll see an input symbol, but notice it's still percentage Q 1.2, same output as this, so it still is an output, it's just being referred to as an input within the code so that we can latch it on.